Usually when we kick off one of these deep dives, I'm sitting here with a stack of papers, maybe a leaked report, or some dense academic study.
The kind everyone pretends to have read.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But today is different. I'm looking at what is, for all intents and purposes, a script. But it's not for a movie. It's not a play.
It's more like a blueprint. Or maybe an obituary for a future that hasn't happened yet.
That is a cheerful way to start. But you're right. The title alone, it just sets the stage. Next time, there might be no one to hesitate.
And the format is so stark.
It is. Minimalist. It opens with this line. No names, no dates, no coordinates.
Which is immediately jarring, right? For anyone who follows global security or history, we're always obsessed with the when and the where.
We want the timestamp. We want the GPS coordinates of the silo.
But this source says, no, forget all that. Forget the specifics. Look at the pattern.
It explicitly says this episode has no single event. It's arguing we're looking at a systemic flaw, not some historical anomaly. And honestly, reading through it, it felt less like policy analysis and more like a horror story.
It's a horror story about efficiency. I think that's the core tension here. We think of efficiency as the ultimate good, streamlining, optimizing, removing friction. But this source argues that when it comes to the survival of the species, friction is maybe the only thing that's been keeping us alive.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack this script, which is apparently part of something called Series 006, the week it almost happened, and figure out why it thinks we're on this collision course.
And the central thesis is, it's wild.
It really is. It claims the thing standing between us and, a radioactive wasteland isn't deterrence or strength or
diplomacy.
Or diplomacy.
Yeah.
It's hesitation.
The human pause, that glitch in the system where a human brain just freezes up and refuses to process the command.
We're definitely going to get into that whole loop concept because that's where the tech gets really scary. But first, let's talk about how the source reframes the past. It has this section about what saved the world. Now, if you ask most people why we didn't blow ourselves up during the Cold War, the standard answer is MLD. Mutually assured destruction.
Exactly. The rational actor theory. The idea that the system worked because the players were rational. Khrushchev didn't want to die. Kennedy didn't want to die. Therefore, the weapons themselves created a kind of stalemate.
Stability through the promise of total annihilation.
Yeah.
But this source just throws that right in the trash. It lists these almost moments and basically says the system failed repeatedly. It wasn't the strategy that saved us. It was the failure of the strategy.
It's a terrifying inversion. The source argues that every time we came to the brink, the Cuban Missile Crisis, that 1983 false alarm, Able Archer, the protocols actually worked.
The machinery did what it was designed to do.
It did. It detected a threat and prepared a response. The safety only came from someone, somewhere, breaking the rules.
Okay, let's get specific here, because the source drops two names that are absolutely crucial to understanding this. Arkhipov and Petrov.
The saints of hesitation.
That's what the source calls them. Let's start with Vasily Arkhipov. This is the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. We're not talking about a guy in some comfortable office.
No, not at all. He's in a diesel submarine, the B-59, submerged somewhere in the Caribbean. And the Americans are dropping depth charges on them.
Training charges, technically, but I'm sure that didn't make much difference down there.
Right. And context is everything here. They had no contact with Moscow. They've been down there for days. The air conditioning is broken. It's something like 110 degrees. Carbon dioxide is building up. Men are literally fainting at their posts.
And the captain, Savitsky, he's convinced the war has already started.
He is. He thinks the depth charges are the opening shots of World War III. So he orders the special weapon to be assembled.
Which is a nuclear torpedo. 10 kilotons. Enough to vaporize the U.S. carrier group that was hunting them.
And because they had no orders, the protocol required the top 3 officers on board to agree to the launch.
So the captain says yes. The political officer says yes.
The system is ready to execute. The logic of the situation, from their perspective, it demanded a launch. We are under attack. We must respond.
But Arkhipov says no. And what I love about this story is that he wasn't just some random officer. He was the flotilla commander. If he had been on any of the other submarines in that group, the captain should have launched without him. It was just pure chance that the one guy with the rank and, I guess, the temperament to say wait was on that specific boat.
And he didn't say no because he had better data. He didn't know if the war had started or not. He was in the dark.
He just hesitated.
He refused to be the person who ended the world on a hunch. And the source frames this as the ultimate victory of doubt over certainty.
Okay, so then you have Stanislav Petrov, 20 years later, 1983. This one always gets me because it's so much more technical.
It is. He's not in a hot submarine. He's in a chilly bunker outside Moscow, just staring at a screen.
The Serpukhov 15 bunker. He's monitoring the Oko early warning satellite system, state-of-the-art stuff.
And suddenly the siren goes off, the big red screen flashes. LMCH! The system says the U.S. has fired a missile. Then 2, then 5.
And the protocol is crystal clear. You don't ask questions. You pick up the phone, you call the Kremlin, and you report that America has launched. Retaliation is automatic.
But Petrov looks at the screen and he just thinks, that's weird.
But that's weird is probably the most important phrase in human history.
It might be.
Seriously. He reasoned that if the Americans were going to start a war, they wouldn't launch 5 missiles, they'd launch hundreds. They'd try to wipe out the whole Soviet arsenal in one go.
5 missiles just didn't make sense. It felt like a glitch.
But think about the pressure.
Yeah.
The machine is screaming high reliability. The algorithms are telling him, we are 100% sure this is a launch.
And his support staff is looking at him. If he's wrong, and he doesn't report it, the Soviet Union gets hit without firing back. He's a traitor.
But if he reports it and he's wrong, he starts World War III.
He said years later that he felt like he was sitting on a hot frying pan, but he made the call, false alarm, and he was right. It was the sun reflecting off high-altitude clouds over North Dakota, hitting the satellite sensors at just the wrong angle.
But here is the pivot point the source makes. It says Arkhipov and Petrov were friction. They were the lag in the system.
Right. They took time to process, to doubt, to fear. And the source argues that modern technology views that exact lag not as a safety feature, but as a bug to be fixed.
And this is where we get into the disappearance of the pause. The script moves from these historical examples to the present day. And the whole tone shifts from, close call to inevitability.
It starts talking about decision windows.
Right. And this is where we have to talk about that OTA loop concept.
Yeah. Observe, orient, decide, act. It's a military concept from John Boyd. In any conflict, whoever cycles through that loop faster wins. If I can observe and act before you can even orient yourself to what's happening, I win.
Speed is life.
Usually, yes. Yeah. But the source is pointing out this terrifying evolution in the observe and orient phases. In the 1960s, an ICBM took about 30 minutes to get from a silo in the U.S. to Moscow.
That's a 30-minute decision window. It's not long, but it's enough time for a president to be woken up, for a hotline call, for someone to say, are we sure about this?
Even with Petrov, he had a few minutes, but now we're talking about hypersonic glide vehicles.
Right, missiles flying at Mach 5, Mach 10, staying low, maneuvering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The flight time might be compressed to 5 or 6 minutes, but more importantly, the detection time is what gets compressed. By the time you even see it, it's already on top of you.
So the orient phase, the part where a human looks at the data and asks, is that a flock of geese? Is that the sun on clouds?
Yeah.
That part is just gone.
We simply process information too slowly. Our biological hardware hasn't had an upgrade in 200,000 years. If the window to save your country is 180 seconds, you cannot wait for someone to put on their bathrobe and get briefed.
You need a machine to make the call.
And that's the dangerous idea the source highlights. Algorithms optimize speed. We are handing the keys over to AI because we physically can't keep up with the weapons we've built.
And AI doesn't hesitate. That's the crux of it, isn't it? And AI doesn't get a bad feeling.
No, it operates on probability. If the sensor data matches the training data for a missile launch with 99.9% certainty, the AI executes the protocol. It doesn't pause to think, well, the geopolitical tension is pretty low today. This seems odd.
Unless we program it to. Right.
Right.
But even then, you're just trusting the code. I remember reading about how AI struggles with out-of-distribution data stuff it hasn't seen before.
Exactly.
Like a self-driving car sees a guy in a chicken suit crossing the road, and it might just freak out because chicken suit wasn't in the training set.
Precisely. Now just imagine the nuclear equivalent of the chicken suit. A weird solar flare pattern. A new type of cyber spoofing attack that mimics a launch signature perfectly.
A human might look at the contextual clues and pause.
But the system just sees pattern match. Launch.
There's a line in the script that really stuck with me. The future doesn't pause. It executes. It talks about this reflection loop being severed. We're moving from human in the loop to human on the loop, and then eventually
human out of the loop.
Which is just terrifying. It's like we're building a doomsday machine, not because we want to destroy the world, but because we're obsessed with reaction time.
It reminds me of high-frequency trading in the stock market.
That's a perfect analogy. We've seen flash crashes where trading bots get into a feedback loop and tank the market by 1,000 points in 5 minutes.
All because they were reacting to each other's signals faster than any human could pull the plug.
Now imagine a flash crash, but with warheads.
That is exactly what the source is warning about. When you remove that reflection loop, you create a system that can spiral into catastrophe before anyone even knows it's happening. The source calls this the void.
The space where judgment used to be is now just empty execution.
Hmm.
And it connects this to a really interesting philosophical point in Acts V, the paradox of fragility. This kind of blew my mind. It says, the world didn't survive because it was safe. It survived because it was fragile.
It's so counterintuitive, isn't it? We spend billions trying to make these systems robust and fail-safe, but the argument here is that the feeling of safety is what's truly dangerous.
It's like driving. If you're driving a 1995 Honda Civic with no airbags and bad brakes, you are gripping that wheel. You're paying attention to every single car on the road.
You are safe because you know you're vulnerable.
Exactly. They call that risk compensation in psychology. When you give people anti-lock brakes and lane assist, they tend to drive faster and check their phones more.
They outsource the safety to the machine.
So Arkhipov and Petrov were terrified. They knew their systems were glitchy. They knew the radar could be wrong. That fragility forced them to double-check. It forced them to hesitate.
But now, we sell these systems as infallible. We have smart bombs, precision strikes, perfect intelligence. When you believe the machine is perfect, you stop double-checking.
You stop hesitating.
You just assume the computer knows something you don't.
That's automation bias. The computer says launch, so we must launch. It removes the psychological burden of the decision. You're not killing millions of people. You're just following a prompt on the screen.
And that's why the source says, not because people are evil, but because they're unnecessary. We are engineering ourselves out of the moral equation.
God, that's bleak. It's like we're so afraid of being slow that we'd rather be dead.
Or rather, we'd rather be certain than alive.
So let's bring this down to earth for a second. We've been talking about nukes and hypersonics, which hopefully most of our listeners won't have to deal with directly.
Hopefully.
But the source ends with this section called The Last Line.
The most dangerous week hasn't happened yet.
Because next time, there might be no one to hesitate. That line gave me goosebumps. But it got me thinking, this isn't just about war, is it? This logic of removing the pause is happening everywhere.
It is everywhere. Look at how we hire people. We use algorithms to scan resumes. If you don't have the right keywords, you're rejected in milliseconds. No human looks at it and says, hey, this person has an interesting, unconventional background.
The pause is gone.
Gone. Or loan approvals. Or even policing algorithms that predict crime. We accept the output because it's fast and it's data-driven. We assume the data is objective truth.
But data is just a reflection of the past, and often a biased past. When we remove the human capacity to say, wait, this doesn't feel right, or this person deserves a second look,
we're stripping the humanity out of our society in the name of efficiency.
it's the void again. We're creating these little voids all over our lives. I rely on my GPS so much that if it told me to drive into a lake, I'd probably hesitate for a second, but I'd still be thinking, well, maybe there's a shortcut through the water.
And that's a funny example, but it's real. People have driven into lakes because the GPS said so. That is the minor version of the nuclear flash crash. We trust the green line on the map more than our own eyes.
So the source is really a warning against the seduction of seamlessness. We want everything to be seamless, instant, frictionless.
But maybe friction is where morality lives.
Morality requires friction.
It requires a moment of choice. If an action is automatic, can it even be moral? If a machine saves the world by accident, is it a hero? If it destroys the world by code, is it evil? No, it's just executing.
So what's the takeaway here for the listener, aside from, don't build Skynet?
I think it's a call to identify the decision windows in your own life that are closing. Where are you letting an algorithm or a default setting make choices for you?
Yeah. Maybe it's about reclaiming the right to be slow, to be unsure. In a world that demands instant opinions and instant reactions, maybe the most radical thing you can do is just say, I don't know yet, let me think about it.
Let me hesitate.
Exactly. Be like Arkhipov. Be the person sweating in the submarine refusing to turn the key, just because everyone else is yelling at you to do it.
And remember that fragility isn't a defect. It's a reminder to pay attention. If you feel like things are fragile, that's good. It means you're awake.
Man, I feel like I need to go sit in a quiet room and just not do anything for a while.
That sounds like a pretty good survival strategy.
This was a heavy one, but I think a necessary one. We usually try to give you answers in these deep dives, but today I think they're leaving you with a question. As we speed everything up, our work, our communication, our weapons, are we just engineering our own inevitability?
If we remove the doubt, we might just remove the future.
Something to chew on. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time, hopefully.